Can you tell us your son's story?
Well, originally, we've been noticing he's 14, so we noticed some, not necessarily behavioral issues, but the ability to kind of pay attention and his attention length of time. It was getting to the point where literally anywhere we were or whatever we were doing, his attention would be shifted real quick. I mean, to the point where it was literally, oh, look, squirrel, or whatever it was, or if his brothers made a noise or whatever, he couldn't do his homework, he couldn't pay attention, you couldn't have a long conversation with him because he just couldn't do it. So, of course, as parents, we are thinking that's behavioral problems, discipline problems, whatever, mental problems, whatever the heck they are. But, of course, we're blaming ourselves and not, something else, and we're trying to figure out what that is. And so the reason why I reached out to you was I read your book, and so part of that kind of just clicked. And then I just wanted to find a better way, because I've talked to a lot of parents that have been on medication and done all these things for attention deficit, and I don't know anything about it, and neither did my wife. And so it's just a kind of scary thing for a parent to think about it, because you hear so many horror stories about kids on drugs, and they can never get off of them, and the different side effects from whatever those drugs are. And so after talking to you and getting kind of insight on how the brain works, and that it's not a mental problem or a discipline problem, it's a lot of other factors. It really was one of those things like, oh, thank goodness. It's not just us. It's not just, my kid, and it's not a discipline problem where he just doesn't want to study or doesn't want to pay attention, because he really did. And he took to this really well because he wanted to be better. He knew something was off because he knows he can't pay attention as like everybody else. I mean, he sees it and he feels it. He's going into high school. So he was very receptive to it. And then, the fact that it has no drug stuff. It's such a relief for us that we can bring him, he can get therapy, and he's not coming home all drugged up, and he's not having to go, 7 times a week and get different pills and get this and get that. And plus we have 3 other kids, so this kind of opened our eyes to what to look for and what to see, instead of just immediately discipline. That's what parents do immediately. It's our environment, or it's our fault.
How do you like the treatments, and what were his response?
At first, he wasn't so happy.
You do have to sit still part of the time, yes.
You do have to sit still, so it's hard for somebody that can't sit still.
But at least it's watching TV, movies.
It is, and but it was frustrating for him, because the way the therapy was, it gets frustrating because he has to watch a movie and it skips. Yeah. And so that was difficult for him. It drove him nuts. And so he wanted to get up and go move on to something else. And that's kind of what he's always done. If it becomes a little bit difficult, he can't concentrate long enough to get it. He'll just give up and move on, because he just knows himself. He knows he'll get frustrated. So that initially. But as he started to see and hear, and you guys explained to him the process and why it was, he started to understand it and know, all right, wait a minute, I'm in control of this. Mm-hmm. I need to slow down and focus. And so he became a lot more receptive to that, obviously. And then that reflected in everything he did, that he then became to be able to have control over it and think about it as he was doing it. Like, wait a minute, I'm wandering the house while I'm doing homework. Let me sit down and really concentrate on what I'm doing. I know I can do it because of the things he was doing. And then he was it was funny because, when we, over the last 14 years, homework is a disaster. It's a horrible thing, part of our night. But with the therapy parts, he can't wait to do his therapy practices at home. He can't wait to do it. And so he does that homework, and then immediately he's like, oh, now I can go do my homework. It's funny because it's just like he relates one with the other. So if he does his ear thing, or he does his hand tests, his clapping stuff, it's like immediately, now I can do it. So somewhere along the line, he's kind of just made that connection that if I think, or I feel like I'm too hyper or whatever right now, then I can just do these and I can go do my homework. So even that has just been a world of difference.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's changed his grades. It's changed his remarks from his teachers.
Awesome.
On progress reports and report cards. We got a lot of them from him. For him, it was, a lot of the same stuff we saw at home, wandering around the classroom, turning around when the teachers are talking and, looking out the window, and
Right.
he's now focusing. Now it's, obviously got a lot of progress, but he needs more. He's going to keep having to do his practices. And
Yeah. We're not all the way done yet, but it's a progress report.
it's good,
Yes.
absolutely. And so it really has, and of course, for me, anything for my kids and anything for my wife. And so peace of mind for my wife was worth it all by itself.
Yeah. Well, Heather and I, we could see the changes after the first month, and just his positivity after the
Right.
first couple of weeks, once he got the hang of
Right.
just allowing the technology to kind of help him to focus, the neurofeedback.
And that was another huge thing that happened for his transformation in our minds, is that he got positive reinforcement from you guys, not just us. So he wasn't coming home for me, to me just saying, "I'm proud of you, good job," and I don't know anything, and he knows I don't know anything about it, so it doesn't mean as much. But when it comes from Heather,
Yeah.
he'd come home and immediately say, "Heather told me I was this much farther ahead, and I was doing this, and I did this great today," and he's so excited to tell us about it. And so that's what I was excited about, is this is not a fun thing to do as a parent. It is not fun to admit that your kid has something, has a problem that you have to take care of that's, we don't know anything about. It's just scary.
Sure.
And so this process just made it so much easier for us as parents, just to know that it's not just him. It's not.
It's just exercise
just-
for the brain.
It is.
Yes.
And not everybody needs it. I could use it. I did a lot of his things with him because I have the same thing. I'm kind of.
Well, the good
like
news
his-
about some of what we do here is we can track it versus the technology, but at least you're doing some good homework for brain exercise at home too.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
And just like I said, part of it is it's just the relationship between him doing his homework
Yes.
that you guys gave him and doing his real homework.
Yep.
I love to see that because he immediately associates one with the other.
Yep.
And so we're fine with it all day long. Okay, well, if you're wandering around, go do your water thing or
Help him
clap.
focus. Yeah. Help him
And then
focus.
immediately he's done. He just goes back to doing
Awesome.
his homework, and so
Fantastic.
it's been a big relief.
Great to hear that. I know we've kind of talked about it in person, but I'm glad you were able to share that with others that might see this.
Not a problem.
So again, I just really appreciate it. And he's a great kid, and it's been fun. I look forward to seeing him some more.
I appreciate
So,
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.